Hi there, and welcome to another episode of AAU Talks on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa, as we bring you information that is meant to transform the African continent in higher education. And as we approach the strengthening of our higher education institutions in Africa and also charter more stronger partnerships, there is a need for us to strengthen our challenges as African higher education institutions. And one of the biggest challenges we have, amongst the many, is um, funding issues in African higher education setting. So today on this episode, we'll be discussing funding of higher education institutions in Africa with and a PhD candidate in the University of Malaysia, whom I'll be introducing to you after this short break. And don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this short pause with more information. My name is Ajimo Chodako, and please stay with us. So welcome back to AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa, and we're discussing funding issues in African higher education. And with me to discuss this is Mr. Suleiman Dahir Mohamed. He's a PhD candidate at the University of Malaysia, and I'm so glad you are with us today to discuss this topic on funding issues in African higher education. If you can hear me, Mr. Suleiman, you're welcome to AAU Talks.
I'm hearing you, and really, I'm very happy for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being with us. Let's begin to know about Mr. Suleiman. How is your program going at the University of Malaysia and your project as well?
Really, so far so good. There's no problem. Everything is as scheduled. Really, I already applied my PhD and got the acceptance letter, and I have now my admission letter. But just I'm planning how I will reach there and keep going and keep continue on my PhD. Although there is a restriction is caused by this pandemic COVID-19.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm still in my home. I did not start my journey, but very soon I will try.
Great. So how is it in Somalia? How is everything going in Malaysia, Somalia?
Really, everything is normal. We are doing well. Nowadays, we will be going to national elections.
Okay.
For the early this next year, we will do in our elections. So, except that everything is normal, unusual.
Great. We wish Somalia all the best in your upcoming elections and also all your further prospects. But today we'll be discussing funding issues and higher education as I've putting Africa on the map today in terms of what are our issues in our higher education. But from your point of view, I want to find out from you, what has been your key observation when it comes to higher education issues in Africa? You find funding issues as a key issue, or we've got other issues much more weightier than funding?
Thank you very much. Really, I can give you just only one answer, but I may have some other discussions. Really, in Somalia, we um, we have funding or we got fund from you know all of our institutions based on school fees. You know, school fees.
Yeah.
So school fees are the primary source for funding of higher education institutions in Somalia. Yeah, we have internally generated funds by institutions somehow.
Yeah.
Mostly school fees from the parents of the students, relatives, those who are from abroad, diaspora. We call diaspora. Uh, all the private higher education sector sometimes receives financial support from third parties, especially religious situations and some other Uh, the government may support for the what we say capacity building, and the government also supports directly and funds directly to public universities in Somalia. We have also our businessmen in the country. They may contribute for giving students some, scholarships. So that's what I can see is the primary sources available here. But overall, there is no guarantees here except some companies giving students somehow fund. There is no kind of access to loan here. Scholarships are limited, so that most of our school graduates are really going abroad, so that they will get scholarships from those countries, especially Turkey, UK different scholarship programs, also Saudi universities and Sudan. So that's what I can say about the funding primaries in our country. And I hope that Ghana and all African countries feel the same.
Yeah, I think on the same note, there's this kind of same trend everywhere in Africa with regards to funding issues for higher education institutions, and most especially internally generated funds are one of the key source of funds raising points for higher education institutions. Even though some governments claim that they actually allocate huge budgets for education in their continent, and higher education takes quite a chunk of it. But I think on some hands, it seems not to be enough. So the issue now boils back to how much is enough for African higher education institutions to run effectively and efficiently with regards to their funding. But let's now focus more on the issues that affect our funding. One of the things I want to put before you is, our history of war and conflict in Africa. We have some countries in Africa who some years ago were war torn, affected by war and conflict, and the resources that they had, both human resources and financial resources, were destroyed out of this war. So people lost confidence in these institutions, and the best of the brains had to drain away because of these situations. How do you find this as a reason why now, in the 21st century, we are now striving to make up financial resources and funding in our higher education institutions?
Well, thank you. Really, that's what you said is all really correct. But the context of Somalia, we have that issue before. But now, as I already told you, our problem mainly the fund that our government got or some other institutions are really depending on. It depends on the problem currently in the country. Especially we have security issues. Also we have policy and political issues. So yeah, that's right. According to those two things, we may give fund, but according to the education sector, really, it depends on I told you, the primary source in the country. So before we were conflicts and problems in the country, but now everything is getting normal. So I think we are on the board now. So later on, we will try to correct everything for the future. But now, uh, I think that we have enough situations for solving this problem. But the primary source is the main thing that we have.
Uh, Suleiman, do you think that the primary sources of fundraising is in a stronger state, in a good capacity to help run our institutions, especially in Somalia? Are they in the capacity, the people of Somalia, Are they capable of providing the resources needed by the higher education institutions to run effectively, or government needs to put in a good intervention to ensure that a huge chunk of the support is from him and not the people of Somalia? What do you think about that?
Well, really, yeah, the government should support every time. So we need the support from the government. That's one thing. But on my view, really since 2004 until now, almost 6 years or 14, 16 years, we are running our institutions based on the primary source of the school fees. So I can say that we can run based on that. We need the support from the government. We need support from any other parties. Still, we need the support, but based on what we have now, I think we can run. Until now, we can run.
Let me share with you one example in the University of Nairobi and some of the countries, Zimbabwe and co, where the press of COVID-19, the invasion of COVID-19 affected government's revenue mobilization plan. And at a point in time, government had to cut the budgets that they had put up for so many of the sectors, and the education sector had a cut down of the budget. And initially they were even running, they needed more of the funds to run their institutions, but now government had to cut down some of these funds to create more room for others. This is all about the economy. When the economy is in crisis, government has no choice but to take that very bold step, that difficult step to ensure that he cuts down budget, even for higher education, which really affects the way we run higher education institutions in Africa. Do you think that it is really of great need to cut higher education budgets to affect higher education in one way or the other because we're in an economic crisis? Is it really advisable from your point of view?
Really, you are talking about things Kenya, and so I can say that it's not good in my view, because running if the government cut the budget from the high institutions, so what's the result? Let us ask ourselves what will come, what will be the result. So I think that higher education funding is a key issues that African continent all need. So the government is not possible for them to reduce, claiming some other problems in the country. So on my view, really, I'm totally against that kind of of thing for by cutting down the budget from the higher institutions, universities, and giving them or claiming that they are trying to solve any other problems in the country. So I think it will be going back to to ignorance. That higher education is higher institution is they are trying to shift the students from ignorance to knowledge. So if the government will cut down the fund, I can say that many students will not get scholarships and fund, so that they may go back to their early problems. I think I'm totally against that kind of cutting down the budget. You understand?
How about COVID-19 also invading some parts of Africa?
Yes.
Let's speak from Somalia. So in Somalia, how did the government in Somalia handle COVID-19 also? Kept higher education running effectively, even though in the midst of COVID-19?
Yeah, but really the government of Somalia already managed that problem, and they really got money for giving, for solving that kind of problem from COVID-19. But yet they did not cut the higher institution's budget, so they kept it so that people will learn and also COVID-19 should be protected. So we did both things together.
Let's now take it from this point of view in terms of the kind of expenses that higher education institutions undertake with regards to travels, administrative costs. Is there also not a reason why some institutions would want to cut, some governments would want to cut the funding? Because in Zimbabwe, for example, Zambia, the Zambian government made a step to cut down some of the fundings, some of the budgets or the budget of higher institutions in Zambia because of the kind of expenses that were being incurred. So as a way to curb the spending capacity, spending ability of these institutions, he had to just take that step to cut the budget to ensure that they stay economical. From your point of view, do you think that it is right to check higher education institutions and how they spend as a way, cutting down their finances to keep them in a very conscious in terms of their financial management? Do you find that necessary?
I think, Mr. Eric, you are talking about those public universities, or you are talking about private?
Yeah, the public ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Somalia, we don't have that issue. We have, according to comparing the public universities and private universities, really private universities are more than the public universities.
Okay.
So they have they can do whatever they want. So they use funding issues on admin costs and infrastructure, teacher salary, staff development, travels. Yes, they do that. But I agree with you if the government tries to cut down the budget because of the traveling and some other not necessary issues. I agree with that, but we don't have that issue and we don't have that problem in our country. As I already told you, our private universities are more than the public universities, so that's why private universities have their own situations so that they manage their budget. And I already told you that the budget came from the primary source of the school fee from the expenses. So the private universities are using for, as I already told you, admin costs, infrastructure. Sometimes because most of our universities they don't have enough land, so they may need to increase if the enrollment has increased, so they need to build another new infrastructure. So they need teacher salary and something like that, like staff development. We have some traveling, some kind of traveling, but mostly the traveling system or the traveling in our country is mostly internal in our country. So sometimes we do some conferences abroad, so it may be also affect. But if the government cut the budget because of these things, I agree with them if it's not necessary. But if it's necessary, it should not be cut.
Let's go back to Somalia. Private universities actually rely much on internally generated funds, whilst the public ones rely much on government subventions. But according to Somalia, you are having so many private universities and the public ones. That actually raised the question: how are they able to keep running? Because private universities, as private as you are, will raise your funds from students that you will enroll and the fees that you actually charge. Are students capable of paying all of these? Are parents in the good capacity to pay all of these fees without any strife?
Really, the thing I'm telling you is not happening every day and it's not happening every time. So this is sometimes in a year or so. I can say that the primary source, as I already told you,
Yeah.
will be enough for this issue.
Okay. Let's now look at the impact of massification of higher education and how it affects university finances. You know, you mentioned that enrollments keep increasing and increasing, but how is it affecting the public universities? I know that for the private universities, they wouldn't have any issue. They will actually need more massification because the more they massify, the more they raise more funds. But for the public universities, government budget may not necessarily change in regards to the number of students that keep enrolling. It can be the same, it can be fixed, but the students will keep enrolling, and it will be hard to um, now appropriate these funds to take all the students. So the issue is, how can you talk about massification of higher education in Somalia and how it's affecting both the private institutions and the public ones?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let me first talk about the challenges. You are hearing me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So we have some kind of challenges. Yes.
Yeah.
For example, the dramatic increase of in student enrollment in higher education in Africa, especially Somalia, uh, has not been matched public funding. So I think it's kind of the challenges we have. Also, the growing increase in student numbers and the more faculty needed to be recruited is another issue. We have also infrastructure to be built.
Yeah.
I already told you the availability of public funds will be limited as well.
Sure.
We have also limited financial resources, shortage of learning materials, and insufficient basic infrastructure. We have all these kinds of challenges according to the fund. Also, we have already asserted security and institutional weakness, lack of university own building. We have also that kind of issue. But according to the research, also in all in Africa, the research output from African universities is very low. So all these kind of challenges are really based on the massification you asked me right now. And most of the, that most of the faculties in Africa, they do research because of personal gain, uh, but they are not doing the research for the promotion of purpose of the university. So all these challenges are really coming together to impact. Uh, they are the impact of the massification higher education in Africa on university finance. All of these things really we have faced recruitment also and training additional staff to support higher enrollment. Or all of these things are the impact of massification. So those challenges they need to be solved, and they are the result of the massification of higher education universities on the finance.
Great. At this moment, we'll have to go for a quick break. And when we come back, we'll continue with the new models. We'll just find out from you. So the new models that we believe can help higher education institutions step up in terms of their funding issues. So don't go anywhere. We'll go for a quick pause. When we come back, we'll continue our interview with moving ahead with the solution, how then do we enhance higher education institutions to find multiple ways of raising funds? Don't go anywhere, right back.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to AAU Talks, the voice of higher education in Africa. And today I'm here with Mr. Suleiman Dahir, and we're discussing funding issues in higher education in Africa, a case study on Somalia and other African countries as well. And we're now about to talk about, we're down discussing the issues as affecting higher education institutions and their funding. And now we're moving towards the new models of raising funds, of helping higher education institutions be independent to raise funds for themselves and then fund the activities. And one of them is partnership with private sector, among other investors in Somalia and other parts. But help us understand this better. How can partnership with the private sector help curb the issue of funding in higher education?
Thank you very much, and really welcome back. Uh, really, right now we are talking about, as you already told, the new models of finding high education. So the question here that you asked me regarding the partnership with private sector,
Yeah.
I think a good real model. So it can increase and it can solve the problems from the specification and what we have already discussed. If the private sector partners with others, so it can increase and it can solve the problem. Really, with also on the universities themselves, they can do together and solve their problems regarding some issues that we have and challenges we have already discussed.
But do you find the participation of the private sector in Somalia that engaging enough? Is it appealing enough to engage with them? Are they showing interest to partner with higher education institutions over there?
Right now, we can say that the partnership is getting really, as normal, but not as as expected. But we have some kind of partnerships and doing relationships among them. They are really supporting to each other, and according to those affecting or related anything related to their fund or financial.
Yeah.
They will talk to them, have a relationship among them so that they will solve the problems together.
Can you tell us more about the kind of partnership you have at the moment? Can you give us a brief, a short snippet on how the partnership is at the moment with the private institutions, the private sector, and also the higher education institutions in Somalia?
Yeah, there are contracts between partnership and some universities. So I think that issue is it's really I have to do more research on understanding.
Let's now take it also to another method of strengthening alumni associations and also to creating endowment funds. How well have you been able in Somalia have you seen any of the developments where alumni associations are being brought together to begin endowment funds to support their alma mater or their institutions for also the next for other students who are also enrolling to be supported and also for the institutions also to be supported? Have you seen any of such activities happening there?
Yeah, really, I can only go back to the your first question. We have marketing partnership is something like that. But for your question, like right now, you are talking about the alumni
Yeah.
strengthening. So okay, so alumni is for those who graduated already from the university. So we have some kind of associations for those students who have already graduated from universities. So really, we do have association between them, but really they are associated so that they will contact to each other. They will attend the ceremonies. They will try to innovate something new.
Mhm.
They will encourage those senior those students who are registered or enrolled now.
Yeah.
So they have relationship and with the admin of the university or but really they are not giving any budget to the university. But we can say so in Africa. I think that model is really very complex. Students who have already graduated from universities can be invited but cannot fund the university.
Let's now talk about the diaspora. I know we may have some Somalians who are living abroad who come back to Somalia to support higher education institutions as a way of showing their charity. Um, how intensive do we find this involvement of the diaspora and Somalian diaspora coming in to support higher education institutions and making these universities have a kind of a waiver for them to run efficiently by their support as diasporans? How often do you find that happening in Somalia?
For the case of Somali diaspora, yeah, it's really another primary source. It's on the former situation in Somalia. We had some conflicts before. At that time, really, the main source of the funding for the families, not the education for the families, was from diaspora,
Yeah.
as well as indirectly as an indirect, they were really giving uh, or paying the fees from those students who are enrolling schools and other things. So, for the context of higher education right now, yeah, we do have some kind of funding from diaspora, Somali diaspora, but it depends on manufacturers. Like maybe some of them they make coalition so that they will come together to the country and start business here. When they do business here, they will really get money so that they will support some institutions. But it depends on how kind of relationship between them and those kind of universities. But there is no direct, there is no office, there is no union directly support all the private sectors or the, but there is some kind of indirect support from them. But what I can tell you is that it was really a primary source. Diasporans, Somali diaspora, really they supported our family, they supported their family, they supported, uh, the basic, those primary students. But now we are talking about higher education. For the kind of higher education, really, they do have some support, but it's not direct.
Let's now assess the consequence of these new modes against how it can either strengthen higher education institutions or affect them in one way or the other. Do you find these models or new modes very effective to help higher education institutions in bouncing back to a very formidable state in terms of uh, raising funds to fund their operations? Do you find these uh, recommendations or these or alternatives very formidable?
Yeah, really, I think if we have these new modalists and became effective modalists, so it's very clear that, on my view, that it will be really enough, and it will raise the fund, and it will be solution for the problem we are discussing currently. You understand? So it will be really effective because if we got support from those who have partnership, and if we get support from alumni strengthening program, we get support from diaspora. I think all these issues will make the situation very well.
Great, great. I think at this point, I want you to send in your final remarks on, funding in higher education institutions in Africa is a very tough issue. It's something that it's really a big battle when it comes to raising funds, support operations of universities in Africa. It's always been a struggle in one way or the other on how to get the funds and get the support from private sector, alumni, diaspora association, even fee paying options by students who can afford to pay and the ones who can't afford to pay. But what will be your closing message to address the issue of funding, even though the kind of support the higher education institutions in Africa do not have? What do you think institutions in Africa in higher learning can do for themselves to curb issues of funding from that point of view? Is there any way you can stand in there to cushion them up on how they can also raise funds for themselves, apart from increasing fee paying options, which I don't think will be so pleasant for every student or every parent out there? Are there other ways they could raise funds?
Yes, thank you very much. Really, I'm not saying in school fees. This is really the punishment given right now. Just for those funding content, all really rapid growing of or universities. Really, I'm to look the content, and they are suffering from enough budget. According to that, also I am according to votes. Uh, yes, we do have we say we need to the model is we have discussed now. It will be better. I think it's enough. All these will be really very good for the continent. And I will suggest for those who have in private sectors, keep united to think about the other new models that they will try to solve the problem they are facing now, whether according to the guarantees they need or the scholarships they would like to give the students. Uh, they will try. I think if they try, they will get support. Problem is institution is to be independent from others. So to get united together and to relationship, to think this will be for raising, continent. Education will be very Africa, and for the last day, we as African continent will wipe the evolve, but our rectories, higher education specialists, they have about and many other things. And I would suggest AAU TV really to keep casting like these programs so that people will get awareness from TV. And also the association of university has, I think, most responsibility. They will take the responsibility because they are the only association we have.
Yeah.
So they have suggest many other modalists so that they will share with African continent and conferencing about these issues of funding really needs to be key. That's what I can offer. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Suleiman Dahir Mohamed, PhD candidate at the University of Malaysia, currently is at Somalia. Thank you very much for your input and for also your contributions on the issue of funding and African higher education institutions. I believe that your suggestions and your examples and alternatives would go a long way to help turn things around and transform the way African higher education institutions raise funds to run their operations. I believe that we find an Africa where we all experience inclusive growth and sustainable development so we can grow in education, in development, and also in the economy as well. So thank you very much for your time with us on AAU Talks.
Thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate. I would like to say thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And I wish you thank you very much. Happy Friday.
All right. So thank you for spending time with us on the AAU Talks. This episode was about funding issues in African higher education, and we had with us Mr. Suleiman Dahir Mohamed in the University of Malaysia currently and Somalia, who helped us do more discussions deeper into the issues that affect funding in our higher education institutions and also the models and how we can move forward to take our own issues to our own hands and find solutions to it in terms of bringing in the participation of the private sector, alumni, creating endowment funds, and also fee-paid options and many more. We believe that African higher education institutions will buy into this idea and explore further on how to be independent, both public and private institutions be independent in raising their own funds to fund their operations in their higher education institutions. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope to find you watching us next time on the AAU Talks. Have a nice day and bye.